Hey guys!
Hey!
Welcome back to our channel.
Welcome to Defy.
Yes.
So Jamila,
Hey.
what are we gonna defy today?
Today we are here to defy poor boundaries.
With
Family.
yes, that works.
Yeah.
So you guys know what the topic today is. I
Yeah.
mean, by reading the title of the video, you probably already know. But yeah, we're talking about poor boundaries with family members. Let's get into what's your definition of boundaries?
Yeah, so I think that boundaries are just kind of like setting guidelines or like limits about like with how people interact with you. If you're actively setting boundaries, I think you're clearly communicating what feels comfortable to you, what might not feel comfortable to you, what you would maybe like people not to do when they're talking with you. What about you?
So I think about boundaries, I think about like deciding your own path, choosing what you want to do for yourself and not having anybody else dictate how you live or what choices you will make in the future. You know, boundaries is the line or the circle that you create that no one can cross but yourself. You know, you're creating that boundary so that nobody else can like push you, nobody else can like put what they want, their hopes or dreams of you onto you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Setting up boundaries is more like choosing like your own life path.
Right.
Like having your own choice. That's literally what it is. Just doing what you want to do for yourself.
Right.
And nobody else.
And I think that's like important because I think initially we have to kind of acknowledge that, you know, when we're super young and when we're growing up, most of the decisions that are made for us are done by our parents or our family, right? So that's a time where you don't have very much agency.
You don't.
So as you grow up, right, going into your adolescence, that's kind of like when you decide and
you get some autonomy.
Yes,
that's the
exactly.
word. Autonomy,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Autonomy means like your own deciding for yourself, right?
Right. Yeah. Just have your own agency.
Agency.
Like, yeah, exactly. For sure. And that can become a tricky thing.
As a kid, especially.
Yeah, and even with your parents, right? Because it's that thing of like
tug of war.
Yeah, they're your parent. You know, they've been making decisions for you thus far, and kind of just giving you that leeway to like start becoming your own person.
Go fly, little birdie.
Right, jump out the nest, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's interesting. And like what is the first thing? Like it starts off really small. As a child, like deciding
what you want to wear.
Exactly what you want to wear. That's like what I was thinking. What you want to wear, you know, that's big. And sometimes there are some parents out here that have really poor boundaries set up with their children that they can't even have their child decide what they want to wear, and so they will always decide for them. And it gets really hard.
It does.
It does. Like an example of me setting boundaries for myself, I guess. What was it? Like there was one day where there was like some after school book club thing going on. And I was like, you know what? And my mom, like, I used to be so scared. I was a little kid, you know, those years when you actually fear your parents, but it's like there's no point in fearing. But anyways, I was like, Hoya, like, this is for my betterment, for my future. I love reading books. Book club is a good thing, okay? And I'm deciding that I'm gonna go to book club, and I'm sorry, but shit, I'm gonna do it, and I want your blessing to go to book club. And she did it out of fear of safety. Like I went to school all in the burbs. I live in the city. Like it's not coming from a place where she doesn't want me to succeed.
100%.
It's coming from a place where like she wants her young child daughter, to be safe.
And I think you bring up an important point because I think like any situation, right, where parents kind of imposing boundaries, majority of the time, I think it's coming out of good intention. I think they're trying to safeguard, you know, their children from something that they think is potentially super harmful.
Exactly. Well, that's very true.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes we can kind of like debate if, you know, obviously there was a good intention there, but it can like lead to bad situations, you missing out on opportunities.
Exactly.
But I think initially it's coming from a good place, right?
Of course,
but anyways,
of course.
Sorry.
No, you're right. And I think you brought up a good point where it can start off as a good place, go to a bad place where the repercussion from that is you not being able to set up boundaries with other people in your life in the future. Not being able to set boundaries with spouses, with coworkers, with even friends. Like if you can't do it at home first, and you're being taught that there's no boundaries between us, then you're gonna think the whole world had no boundaries and you have to do what anyone else tells you to do. You know what I'm saying?
That's a very good point. Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, not only I think do you then fail to set up good boundaries with other people, but sometimes you even lose out on skills, right? Like I think for like just one example that's coming in my head is some of my extended family, you know, there are specific households where a lot of like the women are doing a lot of the household work, which is fine if that's like something that they're choosing to do on their own. I'm going to reiterate that. Like if that's, you know, the woman's choice, then woohoo, you know what I'm saying? Do it. But just like a lot of situations in which that's kind of pressured and expected from mom or dad. And like, you know,
it leads to really bad habits.
For the women and the men, right? Because then it's like you think about the men who are potentially being raised who don't have the life skill of cooking for themselves, cleaning for themselves, etc.
And then the opposite for like the woman is she's always doing the housework. What is she gonna do outside of the house? You know what I'm saying? How's she gonna be able to fend for herself outside, be able to do all the things that the boys were supposed to do? It's really weird. Like,
it's like a balance, right? Because I also think about situations in which sometimes a lot of sons are given they have the burden of doing a lot of like the errand type things. Taking, you know, siblings to appointments. Doing grocery shopping, all of these outdoor things. And, you know, when you come from a family that has so many siblings, that can be extremely stressful, right? So it's like, I feel like both parties kind of lose from like not being able to do these
and having to depend on each other, having to keep it like a circle, like it's a circle, it's a cycle. But another thing that made me think of is like, because the girls are the ones usually doing all the house chores, house responsibilities. They're
not in every family,
of course,
right? We're talking about our experiences and like what we've seen, our friends. This is no way, shape, or form like a blanket statement of not every family operates this way.
Exactly.
Just important to say,
of course. But I think, especially in our community, like in the Somali community, we're all like, why are
that sounds like me. I can already already
like niggas ain't shit type of talk, especially Somali niggas ain't shit type of talk. And it's because like it starts off from home. Like when it's always the daughters or the women in the household tending to the men, like cooking, cleaning, taking care of the babies, doing all the housework. And these girls like learning from a really young age. Like I started, which is good. I should learn from a really young age, which is why right now in my life, like Somali women are a little bit more successful and doing much better in general. Just like talking about the blanket statement here in Minnesota, typical Somali girls and boys. Like it's not everyone, of course, you know what I'm saying. But in general, what I hear from conversations with my friends is Somali girls are out here winning what's going on with the guys. And I think a hypothesis that I have is because at home, when you're young, you're not being taught, the boys are not being taught responsibilities. They're not being taught chores. At a young age, they're being taught that they can be catered to. So they don't have to learn how to do things and be something for themselves because they're so comfortable. They don't want change. You know what I'm saying? And that creates a really bad habit of girls growing up. A good habit for girls, bad for guys. But girls are out here losing too because crickets. When it comes to where's the men at? Like crickets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, I also think it's super important for women to have like economic skills, right? Just financial skills, things that are traditionally like not even in the Somali community, like universally, right? Kind of the societal issue of like teaching men how to deal with finances, you know, just really pushing for men to leave the house, really spread their wings, get an apartment. These kinds of things are situations in which women might potentially lose as well, since that could lead to them not taking care or not maybe having the same knowledge of how to deal with finances, living independently, even something as simple as driving.
Yeah.
I know a lot of young women like not getting their license
for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
For multiple
Yeah.
reasons.
But yeah, I think that everybody loses when
Yeah.
these kinds of things are perpetuated, not just women. It's not like it's
Yeah.
not a one-side thing.
Exactly. It's everyone that's losing.
And to bring it full circle to setting boundaries, you know, I think it's important, and it can be hard. This is not an easy thing, but like kind of when you're getting into these situations of maybe like parents just expecting
or older
siblings. Yeah, or just siblings, right? Just practicing how to say no.
Yes.
Which is a hard thing. Culturally, like even universally, right? Because it's obviously you want to respect your elders, you want to respect your parents. And for argument's sake, and this is something that I think is a little challenging, that I believe, to some extent, I really do believe, and you might disagree with me on this, you guys might as well, but I do believe, like, hey, my house, my rules, right? Like, I'm the one paying for the bills, right? If you're a parent, if you don't like it, you know, so that's hard, it's hard.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And I think, like, my biggest advice to people is if you are living in your parents' house, you know, which is a privilege at the end of the day. There's a lot of people out here that don't have parents, that have one-parent households or whatever.
That are 18 and like, so get out and go to college. You know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's a privilege.
It's definitely a privilege. But if you're living in somebody else's house and it's toxic, it's not healthy for you, you're not able to grow in that home, and you feel stuck, you feel controlled, you feel like there's no boundaries set up for you, like you said, my house, my rules. The only way you can't say I'm gonna live here and do whatever I want to. Right. That's kind of hard.
Yeah. So it's like a balance. It's like, how do you set boundaries that, like, obviously they're your boundaries, but how do you set comprehensive boundaries that your parents can still
rule?
Yeah.
I think the biggest
hard.
It is hard. For me, it's kind of like respect. If it's an unsafe situation, like try your best to get out right away. But if it's a situation where you can, like let's say you're in high school, you know, there's 2 more years left for you to graduate. Let's say you can toughen out 2, 3, 4 years until you get your money up, you get that job, you save up your money, you get out. You don't cut off ties with your family. There at the end of the day, it's family unless it's very toxic. Of course, you can always cut somebody off if they're extremely toxic to you. But like, you have to live there because of circumstances. So live there, but live there, and when there's arguments, just be like okay, But at the end of the day, you're not giving like. You have a plan out. You have a way out. You're planning to move out. You're saving up your money. You're deciding for yourself. You're just like, I don't know.
It's so hard.
It is hard.
That's true. Like, this might be a little controversial. What about pushback? What about saying like, and I've never done this too, so how dare I have the audacity to be like, just say
back
no.
to your parents, right?
Like, say no. Because like, okay,
you can say no.
For example.
You can say no.
Yeah. It's just hard. Like, even in me saying that, because I think of one specific scenario. I had a friend who was like, she was around 23 at this time, and like, when I tell you, like, going to the movies at 5 p.m. was like a battle with her parents, with her friends, right? It was like, Naya, you're not going anywhere. Wash the dishes, come must have this, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Always. Doesn't matter if the weekend, school day, whatever, right?
That's hard.
I'm thinking these extreme situations, not like, oh my God, my mom's not gonna let me go out at 2 a.m. to the club. That's not what I'm talking about. Like these extreme, like toxic situations where you're seeing your brothers get all this freedom in the world, but you're being told you can't just go to the movies with your friends.
For your safety.
Right.
For your safety.
What about pushing back then?
You can.
It's hard.
There's different. It depends on what level you are at as a person, right?
And push back. When I say push back, the undertone is respectfully.
Yes,
right? Respectfully pushing back.
Don't say
no. You never let me go nowhere.
No.
Fuck your house.
None of that. They're your parents at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? But I remember growing up, like it would be a struggle. Like I was not able to say no, so I would just say, Hoya, I'm at the library. But I'm out at the mall with my friends and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's a lot of us have to grow up and just come up with sneaky ways. And that's the whole thing about having strict parents. You're just gonna create sneaky children. You're just gonna create children that are like smart and like they'll figure a way out on their own. But you can't say no. Basically, when I was younger, my father passed away, right? And for the longest time ever, I was not able to. I did not visit my dad's side of the family, and it was mainly because my mom raised us here by herself, and she felt neglected, and she felt like she raised us by herself. So, she was coming from a place of trauma, a place of hurt, right? So for the longest, I was talking to my grandma on the phone, cousins on Instagram, so that. So I knew of my family back from where I was born in Seattle. But I never was able to visit. I was never allowed to visit. And one year, we were like, our grandma's getting old, me and my sister. This is our last grandparent that's alive. We want to see her. I am an adult. We are adults. We are over 18. We love you, Mom. We love you so much. We're not abandoning you. This is how I talk to my mom. We are not abandoning you. We're not betraying you. This is for the greater good. I want to see my grandmother. I don't know how long she has to live. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And it was a really big, like, tug of war thing with my heart. Like, I don't want to make my mom, who raised us her whole life, feel like shit. I don't want her to feel like we're choosing somebody else over her. But at the same time, we have precious time. We don't have a lot of time. You know, our grandparents are so special. And like my grandma and my mom, like they're tight. It's just like there's other family members out there that she felt like neglected her, right? Anyway, long story short, she said hell no. She's been saying hell no for 5+ years. One day I was like, yo, I looked at you, man. We were like, yo, let's just book the tickets and go. Like at the end of the day, our mother will always be our mother. We're not doing something bad. We're not doing something evil. So we're just gonna go. We're gonna give Hoya a hug. We're gonna say we're gonna be back in like 2 weeks, and we just have to do it. And that's exactly what we did. We went, we left, we came back. It was an amazing experience. We have a great Tiger family right now. Like it's like we knew them our whole life. Alhamdulillah. And Hoya's fine. Like she got over it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. That's a good example of just being able to advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself, because that's so important.
Right. Yeah. Not the same thing, but just the one time where like one example that I can think of like when I set a boundary with my mom. So just last year, she was able to come on part of the trip with me, which was literally like the best experience of my life. So I spent 2 weeks solo in Southeast Asia.
Solo?
Yes, and 2 of the weeks with her. And 2 of our other friends.
Yes.
So when I tell you, like,
Southeast Asia by yourself.
Yeah, that caused, let's just say there was a lot of discussion with me and my mom and my dad about that. Mainly, like, just communicating with my mom about my decision to go for very good reason, right? She was very uncomfortable with the idea of having me go, you know, halfway across the world by myself.
Different language,
like different customs, everything, right? I 100% understand why my mom was uncomfortable and why she basically told me no the first time we talked about it. But I just kind of felt like in my heart, like really in my heart, that this was something that I really wanted to do, you know? And I, like, when I say it was, like, literally the best experience of my entire life, when I tell you guys, like, I learned so much about myself, so much about, like, other people's cultures, literally the best. But really what that conversation looked like, which was a scary conversation to have.
Of course.
I'm just, like, thinking back to it, was like, Hoya, like, I love you.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like this is something I need to do for me right now at this point in my life. And, like, I would really like your blessing to go.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go. Exactly. Like, you know, even though like I didn't say that, but like, I would really like you to be on my side in this, because this is something that I really want to do, and I feel like I have to do, right?
You feel like you have to do.
Yeah. So now it was hard, but
and how did she react to that?
She wasn't happy. But yeah, I came back, we good.
We
like,
good now. We good now. And that's the thing, like, time will heal almost everything.
Yeah.
And our parents will love us regardless. And they'll always have their arms open to us. Alhamdulillah, which is a beauty that Allah has blessed us with, blessed in their heart to always have open arms for their children, you know? So if you're doing something for the right intentions, always, something else I would always do is make dua. Like, I would always make dua. Like, before going to a situation, I prayed to God. I even wrote it down, like, exactly what I wanted in the dua, right? And I would say, Ya Allah, please put warmth and acceptance in my mother's heart. Let her not feel any type of way, any type of negativity in her heart. Let her accept this and let her be, like, okay with it. You know what I'm saying? And with time, that's exactly what happened. And by the way, that was 2-3 summers ago that I was in Seattle. I went again this summer again. And she was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and right now, I'm sure if you want another social trip, like your mom, our parents, change is a scary thing. And that's the biggest reason why there's so much boundaries, because people are not comfortable with change. Right. So me going to Seattle, my mom was like, oh my God, what if like my kids like them more or they forget about me? Her going to Southeast Asia, oh my God, what if something happens to her and she's not safe and I don't want to like, but now that push has happened, we can do it again multiple times and our parents will feel more comfortable because they're used to that change. It's not change anymore. It's not something brand new. So
yeah, they get loosened up to the idea. Yeah. And that's not to say that like if you do it once, it becomes easy. You know, it's still a little
hard,
but it becomes easier to navigate these similar situations and say, hey, I'm doing it again. Yeah. You know, I did it last time. It was fine, Mom.
I'm safe. I'm alive. Yeah. Another thing is like older siblings really pave the way. Like I know you're the oldest, so you grew up by yourself for a while.
Yeah.
19 years.
20 years, y'all.
Wow.
20 years.
But now she got some big siblings. Yeah. And me, it's just me and my younger sister, right? I have an older half brother, but he grew up in Norway. So it's me that's paving a lot of like cracking down doors for my younger sister, and now she's able to. And I'm like, lucky little girl, it was all me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, really, like, be grateful to your older siblings who are really breaking like ways for you. And if you're an older sibling, like, I'm sorry, but it's usually you that has to carry all that weight on your shoulders, and I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah. And like another example, tying back to what we were saying earlier about responsibility, super close cousins. Basically, one person in the house was having a lot of responsibility. Just 2 weeks ago, she said, I ain't doing this shit no more. Literally, I'm not lifting one dish. I'm not doing anything until everybody else starts helping out. Right? And at first, the house was in chaos. Oh my God. Yeah. What? You're not going to? Yeah. But guess what? Now everybody got a job and responsibility, and they change up every week.
Look at that. Like you said right now, the whole like errands things with other siblings. Yeah. Telling your parents, Hoya or Ma'aba, I can't do it. I can't do everything my siblings do. But also going to your siblings and be like, yo, I'm not the only child here. Yeah. You guys need to help out too. Yeah. Like there's siblings that you have that don't know how to drive, that are so used to you giving them rides all the time. Right. Like have those conversations. If you have siblings that are always like let's say you're the girl or you're the guy, you're always giving the food, bring it to the boy's hand, or the girl's hand, and sit back and watch. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna do that. It's your own plate, homie.
And it's hard. And I think why I put the emphasis on parents, right, is because I don't think it's impossible to have that conversation with your sibling, but I think your sibling needs to be extremely receptive. Of being like, hey, I really do care of how you feel. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the time, the enablers are parents. Right? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, if your sibling, if your parent still expects this thing of you and is still grilling you to do this thing, why should your sibling care? Exactly. If your parent still expects it of you. Exactly. This is like when I was like 18, going on to 19, and I was visiting some family in Europe. Yeah, great trip. But so like my whole family, mom's side and dad's side, everybody knows I don't wear hijab. This is not a new thing. Yeah, it's kind of been like this my whole life. Yeah. So I arrived like this, how I am usually myself, and one particular family member didn't feel comfortable with just like my lack of hijab. So they kind of just like pushed that on me, and that's been the only situation in my whole entire life where I have personally put the hijab on for another human. Never ever outside of my whole 21 years of living have I done that to satisfy another person.
Yeah, you've done it for yourself.
Yeah, like there have been multiple times where I've gone outside my hijab from going to the masjid, you know, if I just feel so inclined to that specific day. Because my whole thought process about that is I'm going to do it for God, not to impress or satisfy anybody.
Exactly.
So that's kind of...
So you said that one time you did...
I did put it on for this family member. And I don't want to say it was a regret necessarily, but it's something that was outside of my comfort that I really should have. Like, looking back now, I'm a whole different person now than I was then.
You're young.
Now looking back, I probably would have like been like, hey, you know, this is not something that I feel comfortable doing. I don't do this regularly. You're aware of that. And I don't know if that's like, I'm not going to put this on just to please you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it for Allah. I'm going to do it for me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But I don't feel comfortable doing that in this moment.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think like you explained that, and I think we've done that a few times with multiple of our stories, is I think the rough draft or the framework of how to create these boundaries and how to advocate for yourself.
Right.
What I personally like to do is sometimes I even write letters because I feel like I cannot talk to you about words are not going to come out the way I need to come out. I will write a letter. I will either read it to you, dead ass, I will read it to you, or I'll have you read it and I'll just leave and I'll be like, talk to me in a few days. Reflect on it, come back to me. Don't come back to me right now because you're emotional about your high. So you start off by like, let's give an example of how to stand up for yourself, how to create boundaries, right? What I like to do is I like to personally I like to bring it up multiple times throughout like a few months. If I really want something big, right? Let's say I want to move out or something like that. I'm gonna bring it up for a few months again and again and again, and I'm gonna come up to my parents, my mother, and be like, Hoyo, I love you. I start off by like with love and compassion,
like
reassuring that this is not some hate against you. I'm not like defying you, okay? I'm just creating a space for myself. I'm just choosing what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, bro, you're not living this life I am. I'm the one that has to live my life. You know what I'm saying? So you start by reassuring the person, and then you state why you want to do this. Like, why? Like, put your emotions, like, make them try to feel and understand where you're coming from. And at the end, you gotta be like, I'm doing this. And this is a decision that I have come to. And like she said, I want your blessings. And if you don't give me and if they don't give you a blessing, their blessings, then like,
you have to recognize that, like, ultimately, like, this is your life, and you have to make tough decisions about how you will be happy within your own skin at the end of the day, inside your own life, right? Yeah, which is tough, and I know it's easier said than done. Of course. And tying it back to what we were saying earlier, there is that balance of being inside your parents' home, and what they're saying, going, sometimes. It's sometimes when people get married, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and like, listen, your family has hawk over you, right? You have certain obligations that like, that you need to fulfill for your family, your parents specifically, right? I've seen some marriages where typically, like I've seen it from the son, where they're so caught up doing 355 things for maybe their cousin, their sibling, their mom and their dad, that they neglect their wife and their kids. And I'm sure there are situations where that's true for the wives as well. Just like in my experience, I've seen this a lot with men, with husbands, which is a good thing. Like, your parents have obligations over you. There are things you have to do for them, but kind of just like, hey, your wife has certain, your kids. Yeah. So just finding that balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you were saying something earlier too.
No, but yeah. And the other thing is like, when you're, especially for a woman, like when you're young, you're in college or whatever, graduating, you find someone like they are of the same religion, or even if they're not of the same religion, they're from a different culture. They're not Somali. And you want to bring this person to your home and say, I want to marry this person to your parents. And they're like, hell to the no. Because of prejudices, you know? English is not our first language. English is not your first language, right?
It's not. Dutch was.
Dutch was, yeah. Somali was my first language. Somali, yeah, there's so many people who their parents are dictating your love life, your future, and like who you can and cannot marry, even if Allah said it's okay for you to marry this person, that it's good for you to marry this person. And like, how do you set boundaries when it comes to that?
Yeah,
like that's hard.
Because my first boyfriend was not Somali. Yeah, he was like,
what was he?
He was like half Pakistani.
Okay. What was it like? The conversation?
It was just like, why? Oh my god. It was just like, yeah, it was a little bit more than why. That's just nicely put.
You're like, I'm not gonna get too deep into that.
He watches.
Good. Shout out to Jamila's dad.
Yeah. But basically, you know, you weren't happy about that. You said, then Somali can, you know.
Typical.
So just like,
yeah, how do you create boundaries with your parents when it comes to like your love life?
I think that's a little absurd, that part. I feel like that's like, when we said say no earlier, that's when this comes into like play. Because at the end of the day, you're going home to this person, you're gonna maybe have kids if you want to with this person, whether you're a man or a woman, right? At the end of the day, like,
it is what it is. Who you marry at the end of the day is extremely important, and it's extremely important for your future and your future kids. Like, if you want to raise your kids in a beautiful way, shouldn't the person you marry just be as beautiful? You know what I'm saying?
And really just complement
each other. So if you're out here just marrying someone just because they're of the same culture and because your parents are not same tribe, same first cousin. Anyways, how will that affect how your kids turn out? How you turn out, how you're happy, how your home life is. Like, you're committing your whole life and generations upon generations of human beings with somebody. So if you're doing that, shouldn't you be the one to choose? Shouldn't be out of love, shouldn't it be out of your choice and not because of culture, which, my nigga, we're gonna be diluted.
Especially with things like that. I think the reason I had just said zero tolerance, say no, is you have to remember where these things stem from, right? So like a parent saying, oh, I don't want you talking to so-and-so because they're of this race or of this culture.
Yes.
That's just really stemming from hate from, you know, like prejudice and stereotyping. If the person is not Black, then it can be stemming from racism, right? So just kind of realizing like, hey, I understand that this is something you want, but I don't align myself with those kinds of views, right?
Exactly.
I don't align myself with prejudice or racism or such and such. So just, I think when it comes to those things, it's major pushback for me. And yeah,
completely.
Yeah, I agree.
Understanding that your parents are human beings first.
Yeah.
They're human beings too. They were once a child just like you. You know, they make mistakes. Because we all have this, our parents are superheroes. They make no mistakes. They're 100% right. Once you understand that your mother has been just as traumatized, has been just as, everything you've been through, she's been through it too.
Yeah.
Your dad, like, we're all human beings. And when you humanize your parents, you will be, I think you'll have a better understanding of how to like, okay, this person's a human. They can make mistakes.
And here's where they're operating from.
Exactly. And that comes from a place of hurt, a place of trauma, a place of not being able to want to change. And that's okay. In a sense, it's not always okay, but like you understand it. And then it'll help you be like, okay, now I know this. I'm going to make my own decisions because I'm human too. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to also think about.
For sure. Well, I feel like we touched on a lot of things.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I hope that we're all able to reflect about like setting boundaries. It's a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna continuously
talk
get
about
into
boundaries.
it's
totally different. Yeah.
For sure. And we're gonna continuously
relationships.
Yes.
Oh,
that's a whole other.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode. But we're just gonna continuously, like, as we go through life, need to keep putting new boundaries on with family, changing some boundaries that we have. So it's a skill that I feel like is so important for each and every one of us to learn and to practice.
Yeah.
So, you know, we hope that by watching our video today that, like, you know, we ultimately,
giving you some tools, something.
Yeah,
to help
something.
you, yeah.
And if not, we've learned. So
we've learned from each other, and that's the whole
Yeah.
point of this channel, right? For us to have conversations and just to learn from each other.
Yeah.
I think a good exercise that we could all do is after this video, reflect on it. Get a journal.
Yeah,
you know, I'm
please.
gonna try to do that myself
Yeah.
and you as well.
Yeah.
And like ask yourself, who do I have core boundaries
Mhm.
with? What boundaries do I really suck out? What type of boundaries? What type of lines do I need to create to live my most best life? You know, and try to jot down like 5 or 6 new boundaries that you will try to start implementing into your life. Maybe with whoever. It could be even with yourself. You can say boundaries with yourself sometimes. So I feel that's a cool exercise that we could all do.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you guys have any more questions,
Please let us
comment
know.
down below.
Yeah.
Yes. And any other video ideas, please
Let us
tell
know.
us. We want to know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you. Good.